Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. In a distinguished career as a singer, songwriter, and producer, William Bell has come to define the essence of soul. Born in Memphis, but based in Atlanta since 1970, William Bell was one of the pioneers of the classic Stax vault sound, joining such other illustrious musical forces at the label as Otis Redding, Sam and Dave, Isaac Hayes, Booker T and the MGs, Albert King, Eddie Floyd, Carla and Rufus Thomas, the Staple Singers, and the Barkays, among others. After a 2-year stint in the armed forces, thank you for your service, by the way, William released his first full-length album in 1967, the classic The Soul of a Bell, which included the top 20 hit single Everybody Loves a Winner. That same year, blues great Albert King recorded what came to be his signature tune, Born Under a Bad Sign, also written by Bell, which has since become one of the most recorded blues songs of all time. Among his other classic hits at Stax were Any Other Way, Never Like This Before, a tribute to a king, William's personal tribute to Stax legend Otis Redding. I Forgot to Be Your Lover is an internationally acclaimed duet with Judy Clay, Private Number, and the perennial Christmas music favorite, Every Day Will Be Like a Holiday. As a songwriter, William Bell's compositions have been recorded by such diverse stars as Otis Redding, Eric Clapton, Billy Idol, Lou Rawls, and Rod Stewart, among many others. In February of 2017, William received a Grammy for his latest CD on Stax Concord Records, This Is Where I Live, for Americana Album of the Year, and performed on the live TV presentation with Gary Clark Jr. On April 14th, 2023, William Bell will release an album titled One Day Closer to Home with 12 new songs. William Bell continues to be a major force in the music industry. Please welcome singer, songwriter, entertainer, record producer, businessman, the legendary William Bell to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, William.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, man. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate that.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
And let me tell you, man, One Day Closer to Home is already a classic.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we put a lot of time and effort into that particular composition, and in the entire CD, I'm proud of it because we took a year and a half after winning the Grammy. Of course, we took a year and a half to just write some positive messages and songs that I thought would resonate with the people.
Did you write all the music, all the lyrics?
Yes.
You are a great songwriter. You are incredible. Let me tell you, man. I really mean that.
Thank you.
I'm a huge R&B soul guy. I was brought up in D.C., and you know my dad had a store on F Street, and we had Lowe's Palace about 3 doors from us, and they would have regular shows like the Shy Lights and the OJs and the Delphonics, and James Brown played there, and my dad had drinks with Al Green in his dressing room, and I sold a pair of binoculars to Luther Ingram, and I met the Temptations. I mean, it goes way back, so, you're right up my alley, man.
Thank you. Those were the good old days, man. I remember those days fondly.
And this album takes me back, man, because there are many guys that can, really sing the original, the heart and soul of what R&B is all about anymore. There's not too many out there anymore.
I know. We've dwindled down to a very few, and each time I answer the telephone, it looks like there's less and less of us. But thank goodness the music still remains with the newer generations and everything.
Well, thank God for you putting out an album like this too. That'll keep us going for a while.
Thank you.
I'm going to go over a few tracks. I still go to parties with such a fun groove, and I like, don't dance as much, and I just don't stay as long. I probably don't drink as much, but that's I could hear Buddy Guy covering this song.
Yeah, I can too. It's one of those songs for the older musicians or the older generation that they can look back on their early years and realize, yeah, I still like to party, I still like to do this, but the mind says one thing and the body says another, so but I'm still partying.
You know, I'm reaching that stage now myself.
Well, you know what I mean then.
Exactly. And a lot of your songs, you know, hit right, you know, it hits to the heart. Like in a moment of weakness, oh my goodness. That, you know, that one hit me especially because I went through all those things. You know, this, you know, lost my home, lost my job. That all happened to me one year in the same year. But you got your wife still believing in you, you know, and teaching you.
That's the thing about life. I think most people go through what I call the ups and downs of life, and if you persevere and hang in there, you know, you can relate to a song like that because we've all been there, and when we thought that we couldn't carry on, it always comes along that some beautiful lady comes along and helps us survive it.
Exactly, man, and that really, you know, hit me because, you know, me and my wife have been married 40 years now. We just celebrated an anniversary, and if it wasn't for her, you know, I might not be around.
I know, and it's amazing. I lost my wife in April of this year.
I'm so sorry.
I mean, in last year, April of last year, so it's been a year.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing that you have to really, after so many years, you have to get used to the silence again in the house because it's amazing how you adapt to that.
Do you have grandkids?
I do have grandkids, and I have one son and a godson that's like a son that we raised, and so thank goodness I've got the youngsters coming along, and so I'm a granddad and uncle to a lot of my brother still has 2 or 3 kids and stuff, so I'm uncle to a lot of kids.
That's wonderful. You know, I got 5 grandkids and they all live close by, and we love to babysit.
Yes, and that's what keeps us going. You know, you live for the kids.
Exactly. Some other tracks on the album, "Brag About You." That was a cute tune. I like that.
Thank you.
I like to brag about you. Yep.
Well, you know, in terms of what's going on, you know, people love all of the sporting events and stuff, and then you say, well, okay, I'm not an athlete, but I'm a creative person.
Right.
So what can I brag about? Oh, I've got my family here, and I've got this here, and I've got the kids here, so hey, I can brag about that.
That's
so
right.
I've got something to brag about too.
You know, I like the background singers you got. I want to give them some kudos as well. Like on Human Touch, that's one where I really noticed the background singers.
Oh, they are wonderful. I mean, that's like an extension of me, really. They've been with me for many years. Actually, the musicians that played on this particular album, they have been with me roughly 20, 25 years.
Really?
Give
Wow.
or take a few years. But it's like an extended family. And the background singers, they've been with me and performing with me live and everything else. So we just kind of intertwined vocally and personally with each other. It's all a big family.
Let's make loving great again. You know, you're talking about positive messages. This is a big one right here. And that took me back to the 70s, you know, the way the song was constructed and sang. Beautiful tune.
Yeah, that's what One Day Closer to Home is a metaphor for just going back in time and creating stuff that we grew up on and that we listened to we are now, and that particular song is one of those songs, and as you advance in career and as a person and grow, you realize that no matter, and I've had the fortunate experience of traveling to other countries and seeing other cultures and all of that stuff, and just to realize that people are people the world over,
right?
And we all have wishes, frustration, desires, and everything like that. And so that's the song about things that anybody can that's lived a good life can really, really identify with.
And we're all connected. It doesn't matter what country you're in, like you say, and who you are. We are all connected in some way.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. And the moment that we learn that, it'll be a better world. We are all connected with frustrations, and we have our good points, flaws, and everything else, but it's still part of humanity.
Exactly. Yep. It's also a great video on YouTube. I want to mention that to everybody. They need to go and check the video out as well.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have a company where we do everything in-house, and the lady that does that, Jeanette Calloway, she has been doing my album designs and all of the video editing and work and stuff like that, and filming for many years. She's been with me probably, and I'm going to date myself, probably 30 years.
Wow.
She'll hate me for that, but she's been with me about 30 years. So it's like an extended, so the Wilson family is an extended family, and I'm just fortunate to have really great creative people around me. My production partner, Reginald Jones, he's been with me probably 35 years. I got him in the business when he first moved to Atlanta. So it's just a wonderful thing to have just really great creative people around you that, as the years go by, they know your good points, your frustrations, and all of the other things about you, and it makes for a good production when you're creating stuff.
Well, William, that's a reflection of you because you're good to them. That's what it's all about. My dad had businesses since I was a kid, and everyone that worked for us stayed with us, like you said, 30 years, 40 years. Nobody left because we treated our we were like family. We treated them good, and that's what's missing today in a lot of like corporations.
Absolutely.
The accountant says
corporate structure, and you become a number.
Exactly.
And you lose sight of the human factor.
Exactly. The accountant says we can't afford this guy anymore. He's got to go. That's all. That's what it's all about.
Right. And at the bottom line of making a profit, or whether you're taking care of the people that's surrounding you.
Right.
Because I truly believe I would not have sustained without all of these positive energy and people that's surrounding me, because they're in the trenches and they do the groundwork for us.
It's exactly. And you can't do it by yourself. I struggle every day because I do all this by myself. I wish I had a team around me, but
Yeah, and I really value that, and we all feel like that, and it's just a wonderful thing. Whether you're on the road or at home, you still got family around you.
Exactly, and that's why you look so good too. Man, I've seen recent pictures of you, and there are comments on your YouTube channel saying you must have found the fountain of youth.
I'm fortunate, but I have always lived kind of a good life because I eat well and I exercise and all of the stuff that I just say. You are what you put into your body and everything, and I never really got heavily into a drug culture or anything like that. So it's been good for me, and my people, I can say, around me are the same way, and so it's just you have to exemplify that in your lifestyle.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I agree. This is another tune. This is great. Ain't Gonna Let It Bother Me. I was told not to fall in love with you. I don't care what they say. I love that. That's so good.
Yeah, that is the only song in this CD that I did not write totally. I
really?
Interpreted it. But I've got another writer, Carl McBride, he's actually out of Florida. And he's out of Tallahassee.
Right.
And so he wrote that particular song for me, but again, he's been a friend of mine for 25 years, and he said, I've got this song, and it would just be a great song for you, and I know I'm going to send it to you, do what you want to with it. And when he sent it to me, it was one of those songs that instantly I feel I could have written that song. That's just kind of a thing.
It is.
You look back on your lifestyle and the choices that you made for your love life and everything, and sometimes your best friend will say, "Oh no, she's not for you," but you have to kind of stand on your own ground and say, okay, he doesn't know you like I know you, so I'm going to go ahead with this.
Yeah. Every track just goes, I mean, you can identify with every track on this album, I love it, and sometimes that's what's missing in today's music,
Yeah, that's very true. I try to write where people can really identify with the message. It's about life. I write about life, and I try to write openly and honestly about it, to where the lines that I write are people, there's no double meaning to it, so they can really identify readily with what I write about if they've lived a long life.
Music saves a lot of people. It saves their lives. It gets them through some hard times. You guys, you songwriters and great, musicians like you, man. You are so important to the human race, and I really mean that.
It is, and I'm just fortunate, and I thank the man upstairs for having good health and longevity for all these years, and the fans out there are wonderful. In my concerts, I've got 3 generations of fans, if you could believe that.
That's great.
I've got the grandparents, the parents, and the kids. And sometimes the kids will come backstage because it's a kind of a high energy show, and I don't know what they're looking for. Well, at my age, when they come to see me, but they're always surprised, and they'll come back, and the kids will say, "Well, I've been listening to you my whole life," and my next question is always, "How old are you?" "Well, I'm 25. "Yeah, you have." But it's just wonderful to do that, and to find out that people overlook a lot of young people. They think that they don't experience certain things, but I was an old soul at 14.
Yeah, so was I. Yeah, I got into my dad's music. I was brought up with, a lot of the old, my dad, he listened to Mary Alonzo, so I got into Mary Alonzo, and of course Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, and I was big time on all the crooners, when I grew up.
Oh yeah, and that's wonderful, because it shaped you as a man, that you can relate to a lot of genres of music and stuff.
Yeah. Well, your last song on the album, "You're in Love with a Georgia Peach," and great lyric, fantastic lyrics. Let me tell you, I gave this a 5. 5-star rating, which is the best you can ever get on an album. It's a classic already. That's how I would explain it. It's already a classic.
Well, thank you.
It's not even out yet.
Like I said, when you're creating something, it's like your baby. So, and in writing and listening to stuff, and in recording it, you must listen to it 500 times. So, I really put it out there, and it's just wonderful to see how people respond to it. And thank you so much for the 5-star rating, because that's an affirmation to me that you're still doing something right.
I think you got a shot at another Grammy for this one. I really do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
My people around me and management and everything, they're thinking the same thing. So, like I said, after creating it, it's my baby, so I'm going to stand in the background. You tell me how beautiful it is. So that's what I do.
It's terrific. One of the greatest songs of all time, Born Under a Bad Sign, and you wrote it. How do you feel about writing a song that goes down in history like that, huh?
I'm just amazed because at the time that I wrote this song, I was still a very young man, and back in the early 60s, the middle 60s, I was one of those artists that was always in the studio learning the craft on how to mic an organ sound, or how to mic the drum sounds, and what this EQ does on the board. And I was just going to university in the studio, more or less. So I was always at Stax, and I was happened to be there on the session that Albert had, and he didn't have enough material, and Jim Stewart asked me if I would have a song that Albert could do, and I had started this song for myself, and I only had the bass line, a verse, and a chorus, and I had not finished it, so I sang the song outright in the studio for Albert, and he just loved the idea, and he didn't love many things. So when he said that, I said, well, can you come in tomorrow and give me overnight to finish it up, and I'll bring it in the morning, the next morning for your session. And then he could do that. And so that's what we did. Booker and I went over to his home because it was closer to the studio than mine. And we stayed up all night finishing the song, brought it in the next day, and cut it on Albert.
What was the inspiration behind that? Where'd you get the idea?
Well, it was during the mid-'60s when the thing that everybody was, what's your sign, and all of this stuff was going on. And so that's what I was writing about, and so my first lyrics on that album just identified with it. But everybody was into astrology and all of that stuff back in the thing, and I guess you'd say I hate to use that term, but the hippie generation was going on. So it was during those times, and that's what it was about, just writing about things. And I had heard my grandfather say like I said, I was an old soul at a young age. Right. I had always heard my grandfather say, wow, if it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have no luck at all.
Right. So, yeah.
I use that terminology in the song. And after I wrote about it, then I thought of Albert, and I wanted to write a line on the next verse that he could readily identify with. And Albert didn't really read or write. He was a heck of a musician and everything. And so I put that in there. I started that off, so he readily identified with it and didn't take offense to it. He was just openly honest. And during the session, when we cut it, I would stand behind him and read off the line prior to that, and he would sing it, and it was just wonderful how it just came to life, and he put his iconic guitar work on it, and it just blossomed. And of course, after he did it, he had a monster hit. It became his signature song, and then Eric Clapton and Jack Bruce and Cream cut it.
Yep.
And they just took it around the world.
They took it around the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for writing that song. I mean, that's incredible. I want to mention, you actually started when you were young in church, right? When like a gospel group. Was it called the...
Yeah, I was always heavily into gospel.
Yep.
My mom sang in the choir, and it was one of those Baptist churches in Memphis. And as 6 and 7 years old, I would have to be, no matter what. You get up in the Sunday morning and you spent from, say, 9 o'clock till noon or 1 o'clock in church, and you came home for dinner, and then you went back in the afternoon. So Sundays were always church days. And the Sam Cooke and artists like that, and the Soul Surf and all those guys, I just listened to them relentlessly and loved what they were doing as a gospel group, their harmonies and how they would express a song. So I sang in the choir. I started at 7, and I sang in the church choir, the children's choir. And then when I was about 9, I graduated into doing solo work in the church, and then with the choir singing behind me. And that's where I grew up, and then learned really how to express a lyric or any of that kind of stuff. And then at 14, I got into the doo-wop era with the groups and secular music, and got won a talent contest, a Mid-South talent contest.
Right.
Had a job, lucky enough to work with Phineas Newborn Orchestra in Memphis in the nightclub on the weekends. And he had to talk to my mom because she was deeply religious, and she would call it devil's music.
Yeah, of course.
and I just loved it because old man Phineas had Phineas Jr., Newborn Jr. in there, and he had Calvin and Calvin's wife. And so he had his kids in his band, and he also had some great... he had Hank Crawford in there before he went with Ray Charles, and he had Fathead Newman in his band. So all of these great jazz artists, and they were doing all kind of jazz songs. So like you, at 14, I started hearing jazz songs, and during rehearsals, they made me sit at the piano and learn how to sing different changes and half tones and stuff like that. And I started doing solo work on Sundays. They had what they call a tea dance back then. It was just a fashion show. But I would come in on Sundays and do a solo thing with the jazz band. He had a kind of a Count Basie like band, 14 pieces.
Right.
And I did a lot of the old standard tunes with the jazz band. So it was great tenure for me, and learning how to do that. And like you, I was listening to Sinatra and Nat Cole and Billy Eckstine, people like that, and doing their stuff.
I love jazz.
It was just wonderful to get both sides of the experience, from listening to jazz, which I still do now on my downtime, when I'm not listening to the music that I create, because I always listen, as a competitor. And I'm listening to what arrangements and what the bass player, the guitarist, or the horns are doing. relax, I listen to jazz music and some operatic stuff.
Wow, you're all over the place.
Yeah, but that's what I can actually listen to and relax.
Yep.
As opposed to listening to what I actually do with the soul and R&B stuff.
Well, you know, the great performers and artists are eclectic. They listen to a lot of different music. They can play any kind of genre. That's exactly what you do, because, you know, I hear a lot of different genres in your music, you know. I mean, you got a little bit of everything, really. You can really hear it.
Country and Western is my... Yeah.
You hear that, too?
Because when I was in Memphis, and just for a little bit here, when I was in Memphis, we did a lot of backup work behind, back then it was T.J. Browder, but B.J. Thomas and people like that. Chips Moman was my producer back then at Stax, and so we did a lot of backup work as the Del Rios behind, starting with Carla Thomas and the G Wiz, and then we would do some country things for Ronnie Millsap and people like that, and so country music and R&B and everything are close to my heart. That and jazz and gospel.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I listen to it all. You know, like you said, the big band era, which is a great era. You know, when I saw Sinatra in concert like 5 times, there was nothing better than that band that backed up Sinatra. I mean,
oh man, let me tell you. And when he started working with Quincy,
oh my
that
goodness,
was like heaven.
Oh my goodness, those two together were something else.
Yeah, and he loved all of the ranges, and he also loved the smaller bands, what he called the bar bands.
Yep.
He could do just blues stuff and stuff like that. But I always did love Sinatra, and I got a chance to meet him just for a second. We did a performance behind George Bush Sr. For his inaugural thing, and I got a chance to meet Frank Jr. and Frank.
Oh wow! Huh.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate. I had a chance to really meet Joe Williams, who was one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
And when I got popular and went to New York, my record company got us a front row seats at one of his concerts in one of the hotels there, and then after I got to Georgia, I found out he was from Georgia, and so I was on the board, so we got a chance to get him into the Georgia Music Hall of Fame here, so I got a chance to talk to him again after that.
Did you know Sam Cooke?
I did know Sam, yeah. We had a couple of conversations because his last nightclub appearance was for my manager, Henry Wynn, here in Atlanta at the Royal Peacock. And so I knew Sam, and I knew Bobby Womack, and all of those people, that Johnny Taylor, and all those people that were originally on Sam's label. But Sam was the one that really got me into the behind-the-scenes business part of the business, because back then he had his own publishing company, and none of the black acts were thinking publishing. We didn't know you could make money off publishing or production or anything like that. So he was the first one to get me interested in the behind-the-scenes business aspect of the music. And I just, he was always one of my heroes from, like I said, the Soul Stirrers. I got just tons of his stuff with the Soul Stirrers, and then the other group that Johnny came out of, the Highway QCs, and all of those Chicago and the Memphis, Spirit of Memphis groups. I just loved all of those kind of things. So when doo-wop came along, I went on tour. My first tour was with the Clovers.
Right. Yep.
and then worked with the Drifters for a while on tour.
Wow.
So and Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions. So I've had a well-rounded career.
First concert I ever went to was Curtis Mayfield and Jose Feliciano.
Yeah, and it was like the promoters back in those days would put all of the different genres together.
Yeah, that was a good idea.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, it was a good idea. This way you can experience other genres at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Curtis Mayfield, and I was a big Sam Cooke fan as well. You know, you mentioned Bobby Womack. I'm friends with Bobby Womack's nephew, Binky. Him and me are friends. He's a really good artist as well, and he's a record producer. And we stay in touch, and I always try to promote his music as well. He's a nice guy, really nice guy.
Great. Yeah, all those guys I stay in touch with from time to time, just to see if we're still standing.
Exactly.
And but it's just wonderful to know that some of the kids are into the business and just keeping the music going.
Exactly. I'm happy for that. I'm really happy for that. Yeah. I just want to mention about Stax Records. What I understand, in '58, Estelle Axton, she took a big gamble, and she mortgaged her home to invest $2,500 in the company, and they were able to purchase an Ampex 350 mono console tape recorder. And it's a great story.
God bless Estelle and Jim.
Yep.
Because this was during the segregated years, but they came into a black neighborhood and gave some just obscure kids a chance to come in. There was no racial divide or nothing like that inside of Stax, and you were known for whatever you could create or bring in musically. That's how, it didn't matter what color you were, or what nationality, or whether you're man, woman, or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
If you could write, or you could play, or you could sing, that's what they were interested in. And she and Jim were like a mother to us neighborhood kids. And I lived probably maybe a half mile from Stax, and all of us, David Porter, Maurice White from Earth, Wind and Fire, and I both came out of Lemoyne Gardens, which was like a housing project there, about a half mile from Stax. And we would come up there, and she had satellite records on the outside of that old building there, the theater that they bought. And she would put stuff on, the latest records and stuff, and all of us neighborhood kids would come up and dance on the sidewalk outside, and she would then come out and talk to us, and why do you like that record? And she was more like your dad.
Right.
She would really take a lot of patience with the neighborhood kids and find out why we like stuff. And to me, she was like, as far as having her finger on the pulse of the music of that day, she was more into it, because Jim was a country fiddle player.
Right.
He loved the music, but he didn't know what was the quote-unquote maybe commercial.
Right.
But she did. And some of the things, like on With You Don't Miss Your Water, when I first cut it, Jim thought it was too much like a gospel song, which it was, to mix with gospel country. And but she thought that it was going to be a smash, and Chip Moman thought it was going to be a smash. And so Jim kind of caved in and released it. And of course, they were right that it did become my signature record. But I just loved what she did for the kids of that neighborhood, and she and Jim both. They were wonderful, because during that time, it was not fashionable to even mingle black and white.
Yeah. Wasn't that stupid?
I mean,
it was so stupid. Oh my God!
Stupidness, but it was the sign of the times, but they didn't see that. They just said, "Okay, come in. Well, what do? You play, you sing, whatever. Show us what you got." And if you had something that could be developed, even if it was not up to par, if it was something that they saw in you that could be developed, they let you come in and ask questions and learn, and they were learning from us, and we were learning from them.
You were, I think, the first male solo act to be signed, right, on Stax Records?
Right, yeah, the first male. They had Rufus and Carla,
right,
and then they had the Marquis, which was Miss Axton's son, Packy, and Steve and Duck were in that group. And they had Last Night, and then they had... I came up, how they, Chip Moman knew about my group singing around town because I was friends with Elvis and George Klein and all those people. And Elvis used to come to the Flamingo Room where we played and watch us work. And George was a DJ along with Rufus Thomas on DIA. George was on WHBQ then, and we would do his Christmas shows on TV for WHBQ.
Right.
And so all of us were intermingled as a musical entity in Memphis, but we were frowned upon by the powers that be.
Unbelievable.
Well, yeah, it was. But it was just wonderful how we came together, and black and white and male, female, whatever, and just created something that we all could be proud of and everything. And it was just amazing. But I give kudos to Jim and Estelle for even having the mindset, because I'm sure that they lost a lot of friends when they did that.
Yeah. I got to ask you, what was Rufus like, Rufus Thomas?
He was like my surrogate father. Rufus and I knew each other from DIA when he was a disc jockey.
Yeah.
But I was working around the corner from they had a theater on Beale Street called the Palace Theater.
Right.
And they had talent shows every Wednesday night. So Rufus was the MC and comedian and dancer. He had a partner named Bones on the talent show, and he was the MC. So my group, the Del Rios, who worked around the corner, maybe a block away on Hernandez at the Flamingo Room, we would always enter the talent contest on Wednesday night, and we won so much they stopped letting us enter. But Rufus took a liking to us and brought us to DIA's, another DJ called Muha Williams, A.C. Williams, had a Teen Town singing thing there who Marvell Thomas and Carla Thomas was a part of. So Rufus told me about it. And so I went down and joined the Teen Town Singers. So every Saturday, we had this chorale group of young black kids in high school that came down and did just some of the popular songs of the day on that. And then we did 15 minutes, and after our 15 minutes, B.B. King came on and did his show on after us, live on DIA. So I got to know Rufus very well, and he took a liking to us and everything. And so my first recording session with the Del Rios, his band, the Bearcats, played behind me.
Huh.
And it was the Del Rios, and it's called Alone on a Rainy Night, which was the first song that I wrote. And we were on the media label, which was one of the Bahari Brothers label. And so Chips Moman got wind of us singing, and so he liked what we were doing and brought us to Stax to sing Gee Whiz behind behind Carla Thomas's record that they had leased to Atlantic. So that's how I did that. But the whole family of Carla, Rufus, and her sister, and Marvell. I took Marvell on the first touring on the road show with me. So it was just kind of like a surrogate family.
Rufus did a lot of novelty dance records, like Walking the Dog, Do the Funky Chicken. He did Push and Pull, Do the Push and Pull. He did a lot of great, really cool songs like that. Yeah.
Well, see, Rufus was a comedian and a dancer originally.
He did everything.
and so he was a triple threat, more than a triple threat. And he just had a way with people. He was an MC on the talent contest, so and plus a DJ on the first black radio station in the WTIA in Memphis. So he was just a threat to everything, and he was such a good guy, and he just took a liking to me and my group and everything, and became kind of a surrogate father to us.
Right. I want to mention just some little tidbits so people will realize this. Dr. King was assassinated at the Lorraine Motel, and of course that was '68. I remember it like it was yesterday. But a lot of the Stax staff usually they met and ate there, and Steve Cropper and Eddie Floyd wrote "Knock on Wood" at that hotel. A lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah, and that was like the go-to place back in the day for us to be creative. See, because we could not go to the, say, a Peabody, Holiday Inn, or one of those places back then. They had one black motel there, which we all attended, and we all went to school with the girl that the parents owned it, the motel. So that's where we would come in town and all of us, Sam and Dave, Otis, and that's where we would stay at the Lorraine.
Mm-hmm.
And we would go there because they had a swimming pool, and we would have just rent a block of the room sometime, and we'd have the whole motel with Stax artists and stuff there, and we'd swim in the swimming pool, and then we'd write songs in the room at night. So it was just like the place to be. And of course, Dr. King stayed there,
right?
And that's where he was killed, at that Lorraine.
I met Dr. King's son. I actually, when I had the business in D.C., he was a customer of mine. Yeah, very nice guy.
Did some when he had SCLC here in Atlanta when I first moved here, and I did some shows for him to raise funds and stuff. Me and Sly Stone.
Oh, I love Sly. Love Sly.
Yeah. And so we did quite a few things. He was friends with my manager, Henry Wynn, who was a big promoter, black promoter throughout the country. And so he would put some shows together to raise funds for SCLC and Dr. King. And I got to meet actually Dexter and Mrs. King and Hosea Williams. Hosea and I became friends, and we had a vocal group in Atlanta that we both managed at the same time, and we had them record on my Peachtree label for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we go back a long way.
Oh, yeah. Did you perform at the Watch Stack concert?
I did.
You did. Yes. I watched that show, and one of my favorite parts, besides Isaac Hayes and you, is Luther Ingram, because they pan around and
he came into his own at that.
Oh man, I love Luther. Yeah. He was a nice guy too when I met him.
He really was.
Yeah.
And he just left us too soon.
He did.
And he was a good writer and vocalist and a performer. And he was on tour with Isaac for a little while. He and Isaac was the headliner, and then he had the opening act. Luther was the opening act for Isaac's tour. And my manager booked Isaac for a few years right after Shaft came out.
Right.
So that's another whole story I could go into. I was there at Watch Stax. Actually, I did emceeing and performing.
Yeah.
I brought the Barcades and a couple other acts on. I was out there for on stage, actually, about 6 hours that day.
That was a great show.
Yeah, it was. And
Yeah.
one of the few things that we really came into our own because we didn't know, a lot of us had never, I had been to L.A. and with Rufus and Carla and the MGs for Magnificent Montague, which was a DJ there. He had us there at the 5-4 Ballroom. But this is the major concert, the first major concert, and we didn't realize that we were as popular on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We were like Northeast and Southeastern and Midwest kind of artists, And but that Watch Stax concert was an attestament that we took our name from, because we were doing it for the community of Watts who had the riot and everything, and we were trying to help raise funds to rebuild Watts.
Exactly.
And so we took the name from Woodstock.
Yeah, very clever.
And created the second, I guess the second largest concert in America, Woodstock being the first and then Watch Stax the second. So, on different coastlines. So, and we realized at the time that that was the first time that many people, which was not 100%, but predominantly black, but you had mixture of people within in the structure of that, and there were no incidents or no anything, and it was just like a spiritual thing.
Exactly. Yep.
And it was wonderful to be a part of that, and to know that we had that many fans on the West Coast, because we didn't realize it until that day that that many people would respond. We had over 100,000 people at that Watch Stax concert.
And Richard Pryor was there.
Yeah, but they filmed some stuff on him, and I guess to make it a film,
right,
and to make it interesting too, as Hollywood would do it. When David Wolper became involved, of course, he wanted to film some of the up-and-coming black talent that were working in Hollywood, and Richard had just signed a contract with Stax,
right,
to do one album for him. And so they filmed the thing on Richard, and I think the guy from Love Boat, the bartender.
Isaac.
His name?
Isaac. I don't know what his.
Yeah, but I can't think of the actor's name. But yeah, he was part of it, and 2 or 3 other black actors that went on to become very prominent in L.A. and Hollywood. They got their start from being filmed and injected into the Watch Stax concert. Yeah.
Ted Lang, that's his name.
Yeah, Ted Lang.
Ted Lang. Yeah.
And it was just wonderful, though. I mean, it was a genius idea for David and Al Bell and Forrest Hamilton to do that and inject them in there, because it broke up some of the music, but it also put a spotlight on some of the music too.
Exactly.
Because they were talking about things that were relevant to the songs that were being sung there. Yeah, so it all worked out, and I think it was just a genius idea that they did that.
I talked with Mitch Ryder, and Mitch was on the last performance with Otis. They did Knock on Wood together, December 9th, 1967 in Cleveland, on a Cleveland TV show. And then, of course, the next day, Otis passed away. What was Otis like? I know you guys were really good friends, huh?
Yeah. I was on furlough and doing some recording at Stax when Johnny Jenkins came in. Otis came in. He was driving for Johnny Jenkins, but he was part of Johnny Jenkins' band. But he got out and came in, and at the end of Johnny's concert, session, he didn't have enough tunes. Also, he was lacking a few tunes to do to complete his session. And Jim Stewart asked everybody if they had something that Johnny Jenkins could do. And Otis came up with this song of his that he had, and he wasn't a part of the session. He was just there to drive Johnny to it, and so he had been asking about if he could sing this song, and asking Steve and asking Al Jackson, "Hey, can I show you a song I've got?" And so finally, they got Jim to listen to the song, and he said, "Well, just put him up there on the mic and let him do it." And and of course it was These Arms Are Mine, and it was so. When they were doing the playback, since we were in like an old theater, they would open. We didn't have adequate air conditioning, and it was summertime, so they wanted to get some air in the room. So they opened the door to the hallway there, and they were doing the playback, and they had these big old speakers inside the studio, and it was just amazing. All of the clerical workers and everybody was looking in. Who is that? Who is that? So of course, Otis got a contract of his own that day.
Wow! And
I was fortunate enough to be there, and he and I were going to eat for lunch, and there was a place up on Mississippi Walker called Four Way Grill. They had the best soul food up there, and so I took them up there for the four-way, and Otis and I just became good friends, talking and everything. And then later on, we started touring together, and I'd go to Macon and hang out with him during concerts and everything, and meeting his family, and just going out and sitting with ordinary people, because Otis, again, was such an approachable guy. When you met him, you didn't think big major star and nothing like that. And we would go to these joints and order beer and everything for all the people. Just sit around and talk to people and have a good time. Just in these little dives around Macon there.
Right.
Yeah, and it was wonderful because you stayed close to the people then.
Yep.
And so I happened to be there when he was cutting Dock of the Bay.
Oh wow!
And
you were in the studio
because he was kind of apprehensive about how it would sound, because this was the first song that he had recorded where it wasn't high energy, up tempo.
Exactly.
That energy thing that Otis had. And but he had some polyps removed from his vocal cords, and he was concerned that how is this going to, my fans, how are they going to take this song? Because this is kind of a laid back.
Exactly.
I was like, he was saying that like I would, like you would do, like I would do, and but of course. He asked me at the end of the thing, because I had a gig in Chicago, and he had one in Milwaukee, so he was saying that, why don't you go with me the weekend, and I'll just fly up to Ohio, do my gig at this club up here and do whatever we have to do up there. And I'll drop you off at the airport in Chicago. As luck would have it, it started snowing, and it was snowing like crazy up in that area. And so my concert was canceled at the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't go, and he went along with the Barcades and everything. And
right.
he had met the Barcades I had a club in Memphis called the Tiki Club.
Okay.
And Otis was in town to do some recording, and so he came up to the Tiki Club and just fell in love with the Barcade because they were like my little house band.
Mm-hmm.
At the time. They could come and work on Fridays and Saturdays in my club. So he met the Barcades and everything and just fell in love with them. And, of course, they went on to start working behind Otis. So it was like when I got the call from O.C. White in Milwaukee, and he was a disc jockey, a program director up there, and he knew that Otis and I had done some things
mm-hmm.
with him. So he knew that Otis and I were good friends. So what he called me that Sunday and Sunday evening, and he was asking me if I had heard about Otis.
Mm-hmm.
And I had not. I was watching TV and nothing had come across the television about anything. And if you knew O.C., he was a big jokester. He
mm-hmm.
would tell jokes and stuff. He was a frustrated comedian. And he would tell jokes all the time. So
right.
he was saying, his plane crashed, where he was going to play up there in Wisconsin. And I'm going, don't joke like that.
Yeah.
He said, no. He said, I'm looking at it. They had ticker tapes back then, if you remember ticker tapes.
Yeah, I do.
And it was coming across the ticker tape. He said, and they haven't found everybody, and they haven't found Otis yet.
Mm.
The only person that they found was Ben Cawley, the trumpet player. And
gosh. So
as he was talking to me across the bottom of the TV, a little trailer was running about Otis Redding plane crash in Milwaukee. And it shocked me, so I didn't ever finish my conversation with O.C. I think I just either dropped the phone or hung up on him. One of the two, I don't remember. And I still think, well, Otis is a good swimmer, and I knew he was a good swimmer.
Right.
I said, he'll survive this, and blah, blah, blah. Maybe the plane did crash or something, but he'll survive. And I kept thinking that, and I can't tell you to this day what I did, but I got in my car, and I drove around because it was just dark a little bit when I started, about maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I wound up in front of Stax
mm-hmm.
Records.
Right.
And the door was open, and I walked in, and there were people crying and stuff because people had come to Stax because it was on a Sunday. And I think either Al or Jim were out of town in Vegas or somewhere for a business meeting. But I walked in, and everybody was telling me, yeah, it's true, and they still haven't found Otis. And it was just, to this day, it was just amazing that happened that quickly, because I had just seen him that Friday.
I know. Was it a small plane, or?
Yeah, it was, well, I think they could seat about maybe 20 people or
okay.
something. It was a private plane that Otis had, I think he either bought it or leased it or something.
Right.
That's what he was traveling in then.
But it was, you said it was bad weather? They had snow?
They had snow because I was talking to Ben later on in the years after, and they had made it to the town in Milwaukee, but they had to circle
Right.
to land and I think it was snowing so bad, and then the propeller, it was one of those little one propeller planes, I believe, and it iced up or something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Ben was asleep, but he said when he remembered anything, I guess the plane was in a spiral, and for some reason Ben said he don't know why he did it to this day, but he unbuckled his seatbelt.
Mm-hmm.
And when the plane hit the water, it broke in half.
Right.
And Ben was thrown out in the water, but the water was foggy and cold and icy, and it was just the worst situation that you could find for a plane crash.
Exactly. Yeah, it must have iced up, and then either that or the visibility was bad, because usually on a propeller plane you can make a safe landing, somewhere.
Yeah. But I think it was iced up or something, because either the wings or something, it was too heavy or something. Yeah.
That's horrible. And then, of course, Dock of the Bay was a huge hit after that.
Yes, and I think that was probably, it was a great song.
Great song.
Otis and melodically and everything.
Yeah.
And it propelled him into even a different fan base.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think the way he died, and he had written that song, I think he's out in California somewhere, and he had rented a boathouse or something where he was sitting on the dock or something, and was writing that. And then to have it happen that way, it was almost like a premonition or something.
You're right. You're 100% right. Yep.
But I do know that he was. Everybody was loving. After he finished putting his voice on the track and everything, everybody was loving Dock of the Bay, and Steve was trying to figure out something to do on it, because the whistle was a little bit off key or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that he was trying to do with the whistle.
Yeah.
At the end, and it was just. But Otis did get to finish the song, but I had a conversation with him, and he was a little bit apprehensive about how it would go over, because it was not the typical Otis Redding driving up tempo thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a big hit at Monterey Pop, and he came out and did his Otis, his energetic performance there, and it was a big hit. He was probably one of the best performers at that show.
Oh man, hey, let me tell you, I traveled with him for a year. Mm-hmm. It was like a 2-act thing, and he was headlining, and I would do the first half of the thing, and then he and his band would come on. But it was always, I was thankful that I got on before he went on. I remember one show that we did in North Carolina in one of those, it was hot and everything, in one of those barns where they had tobacco thing. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have air conditioning. They only had big fans. And it was hot and miserable in there. And Otis had something to do for some interview or something, so he had to go on and do his show for the first show, and I had to come on. And I was just always thankful. I said, well, I hope that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Because, I had to work 3 times as hard to get the people energetic behind me that coming behind him. But we had a great time, and we were great friends, competitive on stage, but great friends off stage.
two other guys that had high energy, and I don't know how they did it. And two of my heroes, Wilson Pickett and James Brown.
Yeah, and don't forget Sam and Dave.
And Sam and Dave.
it would take Otis to talk about Sam and Dave. They went on, and I missed that because I had some prior commitment, but they went on this European tour the first time, and Sam and Dave would put heat on Otis that same way, because I would laugh with him about it. I said, yeah, now you know how it feels.
Oh my God! I don't know how they did it. I don't see how James did all those dance moves.
Double dynamite, no doubt.
Yeah, I don't see how James did all those dance moves. You know, the splits and all that. I don't know how he did that.
Oh man, they were on stage. They were unbelievable.
Oh my God!
And people also, because Sam was such a great vocalist, but Dave was also a great vocalist.
Yeah.
And then the two of them, man, they were just unreal.
Well, they complemented each other because they were different, like you said, different styles. Yeah, they were great, man. I got to say, congratulations. You won the National Endowment for the Arts in 2020, the nation's highest honor in the folk and traditional arts. Congratulations for that. I'm so appreciative of all of these honors and everything, because it affirms that somebody was listening and somebody was looking at you during your career. Exactly.
And because you never know sometimes when you're in the moment and doing things,
right,
you don't really know if you're making. There's so many great artists and everything that come along. You don't know if you're making a difference or whatever. But then when you get these kind of accolades and everything, it's just always a wonderful feeling. And especially when at the autumn of your career, it's like, wow, okay, that then somebody was listening.
Exactly. William, here's your final question. I ask a lot of people this question, and I get some really interesting answers, okay? If you had a Field of Dreams wish like the movie to perform or collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
If I had someone to collaborate with...
Collaborate, perform with, team up with?
I would have to go back and say, because I've worked with some great artists and on tours and everything, and it's just a hard call to make. But I would have to say, looking back on some of my heroes like Sam, I got to see him perform, but I never got to work with him on a live show. I did with Jackie and Lou Rawls and Aretha and all these people, but with Sam, he died while I was in the military.
Oh, man.
And I just really never got to perform with him. I did get to meet him and have conversations and everything, and met his family and Elsie and all those people, because I did a Sam Cooke tribute with Peter Goralnik when he had the book Dream Boogie. And so I got to meet a lot of the original soulsters and that were still left. And Lou and I were good friends for quite a few years. Of course, Johnny Taylor and I were friends for quite a few years. So, but I would like to say I would have liked to. I did see him perform as a 10-year-old. My stepfather took me to one of his concerts, and I did see him perform. And I would like to, because he was the guy that a lot of us kids grew up pattering after, between him and Sammy Davis Jr., because he was like the ultimate artist. He did everything.
He did.
And Nat Cole and Sam Cooke on that end of the spectrum. But I would love to have been collaborating on some songs or working with Sam on some stuff.
Yeah, I'm like you. Sam's one of my heroes too. it's such a shame that what all went down. I'm really not sure what happened when he passed away, but I don't think.
Yeah, there's been a lot of different scenarios on what happened and
crazy. They
all of that.
They need to bring that back up, maybe do an investigation or something, and see what.
I know. There have been quite a few deaths like that. Even with Al Jackson, the drummer with the MGs.
Right.
Al and I were just buddies from day one growing up. His dad was a big band leader too that worked around Memphis, and so but there was always the little controversy on how they died.
Exactly. William, where did you serve when you were in the military?
Say again?
Where did you serve in the military?
Hawaii.
Oh, you were in Hawaii. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was there. We were rebuilding Schofield Barracks back then.
Uh-huh.
I was there during the Vietnamese conflict.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for your service. There were a lot of artists that tried to get out of the military, and I commend you for doing what you were supposed to do. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing.
I was glad I did it because, of course, it needed to be done.
Right.
The war itself was always a controversy about us being in Vietnam and stuff. But the thing is, there's a duty that we all have to pay to keep our freedom, and there's always a price for freedom.
Yes.
And so I was glad I did it. It really made a man out of me. I was drafted at the top of my career, but I was able to pick it up thanks to Stax and that had my contract retroactive after I got out. But for 2 years there, I went in on my second hit record, and so I was just climbing the ladder of the totem pole. So of course, when I came out, Otis was the big star, and Sam and Dave and Rufus and all of them. And so I had to start at the bottom of the totem pole, but I was able to work my way back up.
The same thing happened to Gary Lewis. You remember Gary Lewis from the Playboys? He was Jerry Lewis's son. He went to Vietnam, and the same thing happened to him on the height of his career, and then he had to come back and restart the whole thing again. And a lot of people told him, why don't you just try to get out of it and let your dad get out of it? He says, no, I can't do that.
Right.
Same thing. He had the same feeling about it.
Yeah, I didn't, and it's funny because it's the same thing happened to Elvis, too.
That's right. Same thing with Elvis. Exactly. You're right.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I keep in contact with B.B. King's daughters, Shirley and Claudette. You got anything to say to them? Do you know them?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Claudette. I don't know them that well, but I've met them.
Uh-huh.
But BB and he was another one. He and Bobby, they were like surrogate uncle or something, I guess, to it, because they just really took a liking to me. And BB and I, because of like I said, BB and I met early on when I met Rufus at that WDIA.
Right.
BB had his show after we came off, and so it was always. And I got to work a lot of shows with BB, and we did a lot of things for the Medgar Foundation after we became popular and everything. Every year we would make an appearance there for the homecoming and everything for Medgar Evers in Jackson, Mississippi. So we became just really close, and Bobby the same way, and we're all from that Memphis era. When I was a kid, I used to sneak in. They would let me. I'd sneak in and wrap up in the stage curtains because I was too young to be in the clubs where the drinking and thing was going on. But they would let me sneak in and listen to all these great acts and stuff.
Yeah, have you written a book yet? An autobiography?
Did I what?
Have you wrote a book yet? An autobiography of your life?
Not really. I'm being asked.
Yeah, you need
now
to. Yeah,
by a couple of people.
Sure.
And I haven't done that. Mainly, I just didn't know it was that interesting. But so many people have told me you should write a book.
Definitely. Well, if you need any help, let me know. I'm an author, so.
Oh, okay. I will do that.
I'm good at research and all that, so.
Okay.
William,
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, I'm good at that. I've written a few books out there. William, I want to thank you so much, man, for being on the show today. I want to say special thanks to Larry Eaglin also and Joe Kettles for arranging this interview with William Bell. You can purchase the latest album by William Bell, One Day Closer to Home. It'll be available, I think that's April 14th, I believe, right?
April 14th.
The day before tax day, so they'll still have money to buy it.
All right, man. Thank you for having me on again.
William, it's a real honor, man. You are a living legend. I love your music, and keep doing what you're doing. And I hope you get that Grammy for this album because it's worth it.
All right, well, it's all in the cosmos, so think Grammy.
Think Grammy for William Bell.
All right.
All right, William. Thank you so much, man. God bless.
All right, God bless.
Bye-bye.